Marcus, we always ask this question before we get going. Obviously, thank you for joining us today. What were some of your most memorable moments when it came to overdoing it? Were they hilarious, or did they end in controversy, disaster, jail,
tears?
Like, so they were. I guess they were fun mostly, for me, because the reason I got sober was because other addictions became problematic, and when I recovered from them, it became perfectly obvious that my drinking and drug use was also like really destructive and out of control. Yeah. But I was 17. Right. So I didn't get the big stories. I just didn't, like my drinking was probably not wildly different from most of my 17-year-old mates, apart from the difference was when I had money, which was rare, I would drink everything straight away whenever I could, regardless of what else was required of me. It didn't sort of make any difference, but I rarely had money. I was 17. I lived in Devon. It was sort of difficult to get. I was quite good at stealing alcohol and finding ways of getting money to buy drugs. But, like, I suppose.
How did it manifest itself in terms of, I mean, you were lucky to obviously come to your senses early doors, 17. I mean,
so I had an amazing the story of the end of my acting out in addiction really was that when I was very young, when I was about 15, a guy in recovery who knew my parents a bit, he knew other people who knew my parents, saw me at a big family gathering thing and said to my mum, "This won't make any sense now, but when Marcus is ready and he's hit the end of the rope, give me a call. I know someone who can help."
Okay.
Yeah.
And she kind of went, "Yeah, all right then, fine." And then when I did sort of, when the wheels came off, she phoned him and said, "Look, he's really in a bad way. What do we do?" And he said, "Right, you do this." And he referred me to a guy who ran a treatment center for addiction. And then I went, and then that was that. And so I went in for an eating disorder. That was why I was there.
Yeah.
And I really genuinely had no idea that I was an alcoholic and a drug addict as well. I was too pissed to notice, if I'm honest.
Strange,
but
I
went in.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So you know, in this treatment center, you had to fill in a form that was 30 questions to identify whether you had a problem of dependency or addiction.
Oh yeah.
And the one about drugs, out of 30, basically, if you answer more than 15 with a yes, you've got a problem. More than 20 with a yes, you've got a serious problem.
And you scored?
Well, on drugs, I scored 26. Okay. On alcohol, I scored 27. And the one about eating, I ate the form. So that should give you some idea of where that was. I got, with the eating one, I think I was 29. And I was really shocked by the drugs and alcohol one. And I really didn't think...
Yeah.
Even then, when I sort of went, "Oh, yes, I see. So I've got to be sober." Quietly, I was like, well, I won't be. I need to address these other problems. But once I'm out of here...
No, that sounds like me. Yeah.
Can I definitely identify with that?
I'm obviously going to just instinctively know how to drink sensibly. One of the things I've found astonishing, I've been sober from drugs and alcohol for a very long time, for 33 years now. One of the things I've found astonishing is the number of people who've asked me how to drink less. It's like,
drink sensibly.
If I had any clue how you drink less, I'd still drink.
Yeah.
Right? I only don't drink because I don't have a clue how you would do that. As sort of moderately. So anyway, I planned to drink and use drugs again. And then by the time I got out, I didn't want to. I mean, I really didn't want to. It was very shocking. I was 17. I was very young. I'd seen some stuff, but maybe not that much. And I'll never forget, there was a young woman in there. She was maybe only 30. And the head counsellor said to her, you know, if you're not really here for this, if you're not really up for this, then you should go back out there and see how you feel. And
feel some more pain.
yeah, like feel a bit more pain. You know, I don't want you to. I want you to be here, but you can't do this half in, half out. And she said, I don't know. Yeah, maybe this isn't for me. And I think I'll go out. And 3 days later, she was dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because what happened was she drank and then she had some liver pain. And then the drugs she took to cope with the liver pain became an overdose and it killed her.
Yeah.
It's
and I was 17, you know. I mean, I'd seen some people in quite a bad state, but that shocked me very profoundly, you know, as did, to be honest, people that were my counselors in that treatment center who'd been sober for more than 30 years, who were sober kind of around the length of time that I am now, who then went on and relapsed, and one of them relapsed and died.
Yeah,
and it killed him in under 6 months.
It's horrendous because you relapse and you're back to where you are with a bit of extra, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it never gets any better.
No, and in my case, I would be back to where I was with enough money to afford what I would have done then if I'd, you know, like I said, I lived in Devon. I was 17. I was a student and I worked part-time at the Little Chef. So apart from eating everything in the Little Chef, I didn't really have much access to the drugs and alcohol that I wanted, you know.
I was going to say, eating everything in a Little Chef must have been harder work than getting the drugs and the alcohol. That takes some doing.
I mean,
good man, top man.
I know for a fact that after I left, there was a thing in the freezer at the Little Chef. There were frozen chocolate fudge cakes, and you'd get the frozen slice of chocolate fudge cake, stick it in the microwave for 30 seconds, and then it was this sort of warm, slightly gooey, sludgy thing. And I just used to eat them frozen because I'd go in there to get something else, and I'd go
skip the microwave bit.
Yeah, and they found like a lot of half-eaten stuff. I ate frozen prawns.
Oh, that's interesting.
I can see the eating disorder. I mean, it's interesting. Looking up some information on yourself, and I love the way people use words, and you're a clever man with words. And in this one bit I read about you, it says, in his youth, Brigstocke struggled with alcohol and drug addiction. Well, if you scored 26 and 27, you didn't struggle that hard, did you? I mean,
no, I think I nailed it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were pretty bloody good. I don't know about struggling.
It sounds like I was an early adapter.
Yeah, you took like that to the proverbial duck to water, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's interesting. I know some alcoholics I know one in particular who gradually became an alcoholic, which I think for me is quite rare. I don't know loads of people who gradually became an alcoholic. Mostly I know alcoholics who, through the work they've done, have identified that basically from their first drink, they were on a path.
Oh, no, I was a graduate, actually.
Were you?
Yeah.
You were a bit by bit.
Yeah. Which is why it took me a massive amount of time to stop, because I'd had that precedent of it was okay.
Yes.
Which messes with you. I was curious about something you were talking about earlier, Marcus, about you have more than one addiction. And do you find, and I did when I got well and completely sober, that when I had a look at myself, I was obsessive in nearly multiple areas of my life. So my running, the cars, trainers. Is that prevalent with you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, one of the ways I know that I'm definitely still an addict, that I have addiction just as a thing in me that's looking for an out all the time, is that food is much more difficult to manage than drugs and alcohol. Yeah. In the end, you stop drinking.
You do have to eat though, don't you?
Or you don't, or you stop taking drugs, or you don't. But I have to sit down with my primary addiction 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And go, well, I assume because everyone else has stopped, I must have had enough now. There are better ways of managing that, like, for example, have a specific weighed out meal plan for every meal. But I've rejected that sort of recovery. I've done it and it wasn't for me. It wasn't joyful enough. But I'm holding my phone here, which you'll notice is right by my hand. In any given room now of recovering addicts or people for whom addiction is something that's like a nebulous term that's far away from them.
Yeah.
You ask most of the people you know whether they're really comfortable with their screen time and see what they say.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I know almost nobody now in my circle of friends and family who are genuinely okay with how much time they spend on their phones. People whose children are growing up somewhere beyond the little screen, who miss out on like half a day sometimes, you know, of looking for that one video, that one little, I'm literally going to find one funny video on Instagram, and when I found it, I'm going to do something else. Half a day gone easily.